Commander Zixathala's 4 eyes blinked in rapid succession as she reviewed the simulation parameters one final time. The Galactic Military Academy's most prestigious war game, the Nexus conflict, had been running continuously for 10 standard years. Thousands of cadets from across the galaxy had participated, their combined efforts barely maintaining a stalemate between the 3 fictional superpowers. The crystalline Veltari prided themselves on defensive strategies. The gas giant-dwelling Nephilim excelled at resource management and logistics. The silicon-based Quarians dominated through technological superiority. Each species brought their evolutionary advantages to the simulation, creating a complex web of alliances, betrayals, and tactical maneuvering that had become legendary throughout the Academy. Today, however, something unprecedented was about to occur. "Instructor," her aide whispered, his tentacles quivering with nervous energy. "The human cadets are requesting immediate entry into the simulation." Zixathala's mandibles clicked in what passed for amusement among her kind. "How many?" "5, Commander." The bridge fell silent. 5 cadets wanting to enter a simulation that currently hosted over 3,000 participants seemed either incredibly brave or phenomenally stupid. Given that these were humans, the newest species to join the Galactic Alliance, Zixathala suspected the latter. She had studied the preliminary reports on human military doctrine. Crude, aggressive, utterly lacking in the refined strategic thinking that had evolved over millennia of galactic warfare. Their homeworld, designated Terra but colloquially known as that Deathworld nightmare, had supposedly produced a species that thrived on violence and chaos. The Academy's xenobiologists were still debating whether humans were even capable of advanced tactical reasoning. Grant their request, she decided. This should be educational. The 5 human cadets materialized in the simulation staging area. Sarah Chen, Marcus Rodriguez, Aisha Okafor, Victor Petrov, and James McCready. Each carried the standard Academy neural interface, their minds now connected to the vast digital battlefield that stretched across 17 star systems. The current situation briefing flooded their consciousness. The hegemony controlled the industrial core worlds but lacked raw materials. The Federation commanded the outer mining systems, but struggled with manufacturing capacity. The Empire held the strategic hyperspace junctions but faced constant supply shortages, a delicate balance maintained through a decade of careful maneuvering. Chen, designated team leader by virtue of her tactical simulation scores, surveyed the holographic display with cold efficiency. "Assessment? Classic resource deadlock," Rodriguez observed, his fingers dancing across the tactical interface. "Everyone's got something the others need. Nobody's got everything." "Traditional doctrine would suggest we choose a faction and integrate slowly," Petrov added, his Russian accent thick with concentration. "Build trust, contribute meaningfully, perhaps tip the balance over several years." "Boring," McCready grunted. The former Marine's scarred face split into a predatory grin. "I've got a better idea." Okafor's eyes widened as she parsed the underlying simulation code. "Oh, this is beautiful. They've built perfect strategic complexity, but they've ignored basic human psychology." "What do you mean?" Chen asked. "Look at the engagement parameters," Okafor explained, data streaming across her vision. "Every faction operates under the assumption that warfare is rational. Cost-benefit analysis, acceptable losses, strategic patience. But what if it's not? The plan that emerged over the next 12 minutes would later be studied in military academies across the galaxy as either a masterpiece of unorthodox thinking or a testament to human insanity. Instead of choosing a faction, the humans declared themselves a 4th power, the Terran Compact. Their opening move defied every principle of galactic warfare. They launched simultaneous full-scale assaults against all 3 superpowers. The simulation's AI, calibrated for rational actors, struggled to process the implications. The human fleet, hastily assembled from captured vessels and volunteer crew, shouldn't have posed a threat to any established faction, let alone all 3 simultaneously. But Chen had identified the critical flaw in the decade-long stalemate. Each faction had grown comfortable with predictable enemies. Their defenses were optimized against known threats, their strategies built around familiar patterns of engagement. The humans brought chaos. McCready's assault fleet hit the hegemony's industrial worlds with the subtlety of a fusion bomb. Instead of attempting to capture facilities intact, standard doctrine for resource-conscious factions, he simply destroyed everything. Manufacturing capacity that had taken years to build vanished in minutes. Rodriguez targeted the Federation's mining operations with similar ruthlessness. Rather than seizing control of extraction facilities, he collapsed the mines entirely. The Federation's carefully managed resource stockpiles meant nothing when the source was eliminated. Petrov's squadron materialized at the Empire's hyperspace junctions and did the unthinkable. They detonated the gravitational anchors, permanently severing the strategic routes that had been contested for years. "They're destroying everything," whispered a Veltari cadet watching the simulation feeds in horror. "This is madness," agreed his Nephilim counterpart. "They're eliminating strategic assets. There's nothing left to fight over." Which was exactly the point. Within 37 minutes of entering the simulation, the human cadets had transformed a complex three-way strategic deadlock into a simple binary choice: surrender to the Terran Compact or face total annihilation. The established factions, their careful strategies suddenly meaningless, found themselves forced into an unprecedented alliance. But by then, the humans had achieved critical mass. Every destroyed facility had been stripped for raw materials. Every collapsed mine had yielded enough resources for the next assault. Every severed hyperspace route had eliminated escape options for enemy fleets. Okafor's masterpiece was the cascading economic collapse she triggered in the simulation's final minutes. With primary production eliminated, the three superpowers' elaborate trade networks crumbled. Worlds that had seemed unassailable suddenly faced starvation. Fleets that had dominated space for years found themselves without fuel or ammunition. The simulation ended when all three faction leaders simultaneously transmitted surrender codes. Total elapsed time, 53 minutes and 14 seconds. Commander Zixthala stared at her displays in stunned silence. 10 years of careful strategic maneuvering had been obliterated by 5 cadets who had apparently never heard of acceptable losses or strategic patience. "Instructor," her aide ventured, "should we classify this as a simulation error?" She looked at the human cadets who were now calmly discussing their performance, as if completely annihilating a decade-long war game was routine. Shen was already sketching modifications to their approach for next time. Rodriguez was calculating resource efficiency ratios. Petrov was analyzing the psychological impact on opposing forces. "No," Zixthala said slowly. "I think we need to revise our understanding of human military doctrine." As word of the simulation spread throughout the Academy, one thing became clear. The galaxy's definition of warfare had just changed forever. The humans hadn't won through superior technology or ancient wisdom. They had won by refusing to accept that some things were impossible. The Deathworlders had arrived and the universe would never be the same.